All right, welcome in, folks. Let's get our Facebook friends up in here. I had to do it blind this morning, Scott, because the logos were not appearing when I made StreamYard. So I
Well,
don't think
hello,
anybody.
Colts family and country. Welcome to have you. This is Broncos for breakfast.
Yeah, gosh. You know what? Growing up, I would say the Colts were one of my other teams that I supported, but that was because of family connections. My next door neighbor married Bob Sanders. And if you guys don't know who Bob Sanders is, he was the defensive player of the year in 2005,
Safeties
former
don't matter.
safety. Get that? Well, he mattered. He was damn good, and he was a phenomenal defensive player for that Colts team that won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. So got to meet him, got to meet Dallas Clark a few times. It was awesome. But welcome in, guys. Happy Cinco de Mayo. It is obviously May 5th, and it's time for Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I've got to adjust my speakers a little bit after I
Hmm.
unplug my microphone, but things are going well. Hopefully, you weren't getting too bad an echo on me, Nick. The chat is hopping this morning,
Yeah.
so everybody's ready to go. It's excited running through Broncos country. The draft is now over, and now it's like, all right, we're ready to go now. Players are here. Yeah, there's still that little bit of getting them signed and trained and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have plenty to talk about. I think Mark Schrader asked me, he's like, "What are we going to talk about now?" I'm like, "We launched this thing in April last year. We managed to do okay. We'll be
Yeah.
okay."
No, we'll find things to talk about. We can get really into the weeds of the football team building stuff, football philosophy, game theory. So it'll be a lot of fun.
And Nick, I was thinking, I'm old enough to remember the Baltimore Colts. I'm like, I think when did they move to Indianapolis?
Oh man, I before my time. I have
Yeah,
no
but I
idea.
remember they weren't always. I can't tell. Someone look that up for me, so I'm not looking at this wiki page. I remember they were the Baltimore Colts because Cleveland Browns and went to Baltimore a couple years later.
Hmm.
So yeah, I remember the Baltimore Colts.
Yeah, also, growing up, if I was playing Madden for fun, I'd be the Broncos, but sometimes we'd play Madden pretty competitively, some of my friends and other people, in the area, and when that was the case, I was the Colts because Dwight Freeney was a cheat code, and you couldn't stop, Peyton Manning to Dallas Clark, Reggie Wayne, and,
I think it says 1983. 1983. So
that
yeah,
sounds about
Clee
right.
says 84. So thank you, Clee.
Thank you so much, Glee. We got Ethan's in the house too. Happy Cinco de Mayo, gents, and Broncos country, absolutely. Massive Attack fan. This is a name I don't recognize. So happy Cinco de Mayo. He said he's got his bell bottoms on too. Not sure about that one, but I'm appreciating it. Luke Wright saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott. Let's ride. So excited for the season. Absolutely." We got Christos Jenkins coming in saying, "Morning, Broncos family." Might sound crazy, but was just talking to my wife about JNCO jeans last wife. Stupid fad. Okay, so they're jeans. I have no idea. Scott, is that before my time too? Jinko jeans?
I don't know what those are. I remember acid wash from the 80s. There's not a lot of fashion things that survive the 80s, except the mullet seems to be making a comeback, for God's sakes. Boys, no. It's like women in these high-waisted, shorts. No, no, no. You don't need to be out there in coach, overweight, middle-aged softball coach's pants. No. The mullet wasn't good then. It's not good now. Leave it in the past.
I do really like the we can bring back more like synthesizer and music. That was a good time. I enjoyed that, and the bright colors, vibrant colors. Here for that.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
all
sh-
about colors. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I mean, this is about as bright as I ever go. Is something like this as a blue, a light blue. But yeah, I like colors. My daughter, she looks like she goes out looking like a paisley Easter egg. Is what she looks like most of the time. I love it.
as I say, wearing my 100th black Iowa sweatshirt. Sean Burns coming in. Good morning, guys. EJ's in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott. And happy Cinco de Mayo, Broncos country. And Christos also saying the days inch closer and closer to that first kickoff. Can already smells the winds coming. You sound like Natalie, my partner here, Christos, because she keeps saying, "Oh, I'm so ready for fall." I'm like, we have a whole summer. We got to enjoy first. If you skip summer, I'm going to be very upset with how dreary this winter has been. So, no, summer first, then we can enjoy the winter. I need a break. I'm ready for a summer, some sort of summer vacation because I haven't done much of anything since Christmas. So we're inching our way there. U.S. Dave saying morning, all good to see you. Jeremy Sean saying good morning, Broncos for breakfast, brethren. I was thinking Nick Benito's sack celebration should be raising the flag like you do at Casa Benito. Just a thought. You aware of this? Is a Scott and I are not from Denver. Are you aware of what Casa Benito is? Scott, does that
I
ring a bell
thought it
to you?
sounds like it was my guess was it was a restaurant that they signed Nathaniel Hackett at, but I don't really know what it is.
It's not the one that they signed Nathaniel Hackett at. And actually, I think
not signed, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. There was a different Mexican place they took Casa Bonita, or they took Nathaniel Hackett to. I think the guys, Trey and Chris, I want to say the South Park writers, bought Casa Bonito because it was going under, and they made jokes to it constantly on South Park. So somebody have to let us know that's a local Denver there. We got Gary Neighbors in the house saying, "Go Broncos! Good to see you." Mark, speak of the not speak of the devil, but to speak of great supporter here, Mark Schrader. We were just talking about you. What are we gonna do in the offseason? We'll do enough. We'll be okay. Good morning, gents. Good to see you. The real Travis Scott coming in here. Good morning, everyone. Travis Scott's, I think, follows me on Twitter. So good to see you in here, Travis. Albert Breer's also Albert Knoppers. Albert Knoppers also in here. Good morning, guys. Just heading into work. Well, who's in here listening to us in the shower? Let us know. That seems to be our where we really just
I was
do the
thinking
best.
about the show in the shower. Does that count?
It depends on what specifically you're thinking about.
Yeah, that's not any weirder, is it?
Yeah, it depends. Bama X, good morning to you. Aloha to Greg Smith, Dave Glassman in the house as well, and yeah, we got a bunch of people coming in. So today we're talking about jeans fashion down here. Gotta love it. Today we're gonna get into it. Big E Bronco also. Good morning to you. The Broncos ranking in the post-draft power rankings. So the NFL Network, NFL.com's Dan Hanzus, who's around the NFL reporter, did a post-draft power ranking for the entire NFL. And, well, let's just say that the Broncos are back, back again, relevant. I sent an article to Chad. It's not been published yet. Somebody teased Chad about that. No, but we're definitely going to discuss that. And we also got our first super coming in from Max Power saying, who do you guys compare cornerback Mathis to? I think Darby. I think that's not a bad comparison. I think they're going to let Mathis kind of figure out his best fit in the defense. I think he could play slot just as easily as he could play boundary cornerback. And wherever he ends up is where he ends up. I think Darby makes sense, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this, Scott?
I don't, and I cheat nowadays now that I know that Mock Draftable is there, because I don't know him well enough, and I don't know the rest of the league well enough at this point to say he is. But his number one physical comparison was Chimidi Chekwa from Ohio State in 2011. Ambry Thomas last year was a guy. Now, see, I know those guys. I don't know how to compare. What I know about Ambry Thomas is Ambry Thomas was a fighter. He had some trouble last year as a rookie corner and had some, I think Russell Gage toasted him a few times with Atlanta, helped get Russell Gage about $40 million. And then Ambry Thomas was really good after that. Rookie out of Michigan last year with the 49ers. J.C. Jackson and Janoris Jenkins are also other players that Mock Draftable compares him to from a physical standpoint.
Yeah, and I'm pulling up right now. Let's see what Lance Zierlein has to say over on NFL Network. Says he's going to go in the third round, so that's a good one. Got a value there. I thought so as well. And don't see a actual player comparison. So, I mean, yeah, Ronald Darby makes some sense, kind of twitchy. Darby was a better athlete coming out than
I feel like
Mathis
he was bigger too. Is he over 6 feet? Was Darby with a little bit more length because he's 5'11", but he's got a 6'5.5" wingspan. So again, those long arms is and what did I tell it? I was looking at the Utah Jazz point guard, and he was 6'1" with a 6'10" wingspan. I'm like, here, let me tie my shoes. Okay, done. Doesn't even have to bend over at the waist. That's a crazy frame. He's almost 7 foot wingspan on a 6'1" frame.
Those are the guys that always
yeah, honey, can you turn out the lights? Yeah, let me read. Don't even have to get out of bed.
Yeah, but Darby tested crazy at the combine as far as the 40-yard dash and the jumps. 96th percentile vertical jump, 89th broad jump, 89th 40-yard dash, and 96th percentile 10-yard split. So really fast. Not massive, but
but Darby didn't go to the fourth, did he?
No, Darby was one of the first picks in the second round.
Yeah,
coming out of Florida State. So definitely something. Well, I need to see these guys when the live bullets are flying too. Something can stick there, but right now I can't think of a cornerback who would make total sense. I don't even know what his role will be yet, but I like the pick. I like the physicality. I like the overall skill set. I like the ball skills. My favorite pick of the draft. Damari Mathis. Gary Leeds Palmer coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott. Good morning to you, Gary. Hope you're doing well. Rob's also in the house saying, good morning, Nick and Scott. Thoughts on signing Jadeveon Clowney to a 1-year deal now that the draft is over? It depends on the cost of it. I think I would have been fine with Jadeveon Clowney, and I'm very much a proponent of getting somebody who is a better run defender along the defensive line at the edge spot than the Broncos currently have, which Jadeveon Clowney would be. But that said, you are dealing with less and less cash. You still have to sign your draft class, and anything that you spend this year, you can't roll over to next year where you have a lot of a lot of questions. Not only the Russell Wilson contract that's probably going to be re-upped, but also you have Dalton Reisner is going to be a free agent. Draymond Jones is going to be a free agent. Bradley Chubb is going to be a free agent.
Being that your first pick was at 64, your draft class is going to have a very minimal impact on your overall salary cap this year. So that's not too much of a worry.
Yeah.
But let's see. Coming in, you got Randy Gregory. You got you've added Nick Benito. You got Bradley Chubb. You want to count Malik Willis in there? Not Malik Willis. I'm sorry, Malik Reed. I'm still in draft mode. I would advocate for it, assuming the price is right. That's always the assumption. We always say that, but it's always true. What's he want to come in for, and would he be available? Right now, I'd say no. I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to spend money there. I'd feel pretty good about the guys I've got, knowing the upside there. I'd honestly, I'd want to say we signed you, Randy Gregory. We believe in you, Bradley Chubb. We drafted Nick Benito. I'm not hedging right now. I've got guys. I've got guys that can really do the job on me. Plus, I'm not putting doubts in their mind. I want to back them. As a general manager, as a coach, I want to empower them. I want to back them. I want them feeling confident, not immediately looking over their shoulder. And these guys don't trust me here. I want them to feel good. And I know that's part of the man management part of things, and it doesn't make sense on a spreadsheet or on a video game. But I want Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb and Nick Benito coming in knowing that they've got full backing of the Denver Broncos and not looking over their shoulders immediately thinking, man, I just signed here and they're already replacing me. I don't want that to happen.
I will say that if this does happen, and I would be interested in Clowney still, you're right in all your points. It's kind of it's not a crowded room right now, but it's full. And if
I like Clowney, don't get me wrong. He could help the team for sure.
Yeah.
I just, when we talk about the volatility of the edge position, Nick, I don't want to throw in a stick of dynamite.
Yeah. But maybe that makes it pop, in a
good
way.
It does, maybe. It's risky. The whole edge class, the whole edge is your biggest risk on the team this year. I think we both agree on that.
Yep. It's either that or the entirety of the offensive line, given you don't really have some standouts, I would say, on any of the spots. But yeah, you're correct in that one.
Not necessarily risk, but highest variance.
Yes.
It could be the strength of the team. It could be the weakness of the team. Whereas the offensive line is never going to be the strength of the team. We know it's a risk. That's that. Yeah. So let me rephrase, because you're dead on. You're dead on that one.
The one thing I will say, coming back to this Clowney discussion here, is that if the Broncos had a deal in hand to send Malik Reed somewhere for like a 2024 5th round pick, or 2024 4, and you send back a 2024 7, then sign me up. You create a spot. Then there's already talk about Browning maybe sticking more at edge this season than off ball. I think that has as much to do with how little the Broncos are going to be playing linebackers as it does not being happy with what Browning did last year at linebacker. But definitely a discussion. He's one of the guys out there that interests me for a discount. Also, if you're looking for more of that bull type of edge rusher that has some strength and mass to it, Carlos Dunlap is still out there. He could be had for super cheap. He's massive. God, I loved him coming out of Florida. He was one of my first draft crushes, honestly, coming out of Florida, 6'8", 270 pounds. And then you also have Trey Flowers, who's also kind of a little shorter, but one of those pocket crunching defensive ends that did some good stuff at Arkansas. So Ashton's in here. What's up, guys? Good to see you, Ashton. We also got Michael Kerr, and I don't want to say any specific names, but if he gets hurt again, we got to trade him. But he needs to produce value. I think this is talking about.
If we're talking edge, trade's out of the question. If he's hurt again, it's done.
Yeah.
He's gone. This would be his last season. He's not under contract next year. He's a free agent after this year. If he gets hurt again, his days as a Denver Bronco are over, and you get nothing in return. Flat out.
Yep. Yeah. Speaking
Except
of flat
maybe
out,
a comp pick, maybe down the road if someone else signs him. Then that's your best case. So I always forget about that. you get you'd be banking on getting a comp pick for Bradley Chubb if he gets hurt. And if he goes out and has a great season, you still can't trade him. Basically, unless you trade Bradley Chubb now, before the season, you're not trading Bradley Chubb.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Definitely a
Of course, I
good
say
point
that and
on that.
traded Von Miller in last year his deal. So again,
Yeah. We'll
but
see.
again, then the Broncos, George Payton didn't delude himself into thinking the Broncos were a contender last year, despite hovering around 500 most of the time. So he went ahead and picked up a 2 and a 3, and lost Von Miller for the year.
What a good trade in hindsight. Really helpful for the Broncos.
Yeah,
Good
I
for
mean,
Von, too.
again,
Yeah.
you're watching bad football, and there was so much bad football last year. And with the expanded playoffs, you're like, hey, we're 5-6 and we're in the thick of this thing. Yeah, but we suck.
Yeah.
It's not a good product. But what do I know? The NFL's a monster. So they seem to be doing just fine by being more inclusive with teams that aren't any good.
Yeah. Jared coming in saying good morning, Scott and Nick. Good to see you, Jared. Yeah, it's a great day. It's going to be cold here, but spring is here. Summer's right around the corner. And attention, listeners, are you ready to be blown away? It says siren alerts here, so I got this. There we go. Awesome. Sirens. There you go. You asked for it and they listened. Our friends at Manscaped just relaunched the Ultra Smooth Package. It's back, baby, with your new favorite tool and complement to the Lawnmower 4.0 to keep your boys smooth while looking and feeling their best. This specialized groin shaving kit is here to help you buff, protect, and shave your most sensitive and private areas. It's time to crop that bush of yours and get it right to the roots with a discount just for you from Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code MHH.
Yeah, and despite all the talk of below the belt grooming, I'm more interested in stuff above the belt. Once got my hair cut and the lady said I had crazy eyebrows. I'm like, really? You can't even see my eyebrows. They're blonde. Takes care of stuff like that coming out of your ears, your neck. So plenty of tools. Manscaped.com, code MHH for 20% off.
Yeah, guys, 20% off and free shipping. Also, if you use MHH at manscaped.com, that's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Smooth out your fellas with the relaunched Ultra Smooth Package from the fellas at Manscaped, your balls and friends. Well, thank you. All right, well, those are always fun. Had to get the air horn for that one because it said insert alert. So I'm like, okay, we're going to do it. It's going to be great. So circling it back around here to the main topic here, we are talking about NFL power rankings. And Scott, you probably already saw where the Broncos fell in the rankings, but I'm going to read the teams just to get to where the Broncos are first to kind of get an idea of the pecking order. And we can discuss the teams above the Broncos first before getting into what they have to say about Denver. So number 1 overall is the Buffalo Bills. Number 2 is the Los Angeles Rams. Number 3 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 4 is the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 5 is the San Francisco 49ers. Number 6 is the Green Bay Packers. Number 7, the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Broncos are number 8. So here we are, talking about the Broncos. Top 10, that's great. How do you feel about the teams that are ranked prior to the Broncos? Anything there that you would really change or something that sticks out as, really you believe in that one?
I like the Buffalo Bills number 1. I can live with that one. The Rams at number 2. Yeah, okay. Bucks number 3 makes sense. Bengals. I honestly think the Bengals might be a little high at 4. They kind of scraped their way into the playoffs and got hot. There was people talk about, oh, look at the terrible offensive line. The Bengals did it. The Bengals barely made the playoffs. That's not something I want to try and replicate. It's like, oh, offensive line doesn't matter. Hoo-ha. 49ers at 5 also seems a little bit high. Packers at 6. What do they have this year is a big question. You're losing Devontae Adams. You're putting quarter of your money into Aaron Rodgers. Have you gotten better there? Because you got knocked out in the first last year. Chiefs, I'm going to put the Chiefs ahead of the Broncos until proven otherwise. You beat me 13 times in a row. You're going to stay ahead of me until I win one. So, that all makes sense. Then just looking just a shade below, the Chargers are solid at 9, the Raiders at 10. So how about that?
That's
we
what
have an AFC West guy here or what? 7, 8, 9, 10 in the AFC West. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Those teams are good enough. It's like, oh, they'll beat each other up. No, this isn't an unbalanced schedule like baseball. You go 500 against your division opponents, you can still go 14-3. Yeah. So if they beat each other up, as long as they stay healthy, if they're just beating each other up by record, so what? This isn't college football anymore, where you had to go perfect. This is more like new college football where you just have to get close. And in this case, hover around 500 and eke in just above 500, and you're probably making the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, Jacob Foster coming in, the silent owner with a big support here. Thank you so much, Jacob. And I agree with you for the most part, Scott. I think they did a good job with the this is Dan Hanzus, who does good work over at NFL Network and NFL.com. But Bills number 1, yes. Rams number 2, yes. Tampa Bay number 3 with Tom Brady back, yes. After that, Cincinnati at 4, San Francisco at 5. I would probably put honestly, you mentioned it, like, what are we going to see with Green Bay this year? You know what I'm going to see is a team that's same as last year, dominant defense. I think we really underestimate how good that Packers defense is. I think they're great.
And I like the Chiefs better than the Bengals.
Yeah, same.
over a course of, a one-off match is different, but over the course of a 17-game season, I think the Chiefs are a better overall team than the Bengals still, and will have a better record at the end of the day. Despite the fact that they're playing in it. Well, it's not that much tougher division. The AFC North is no cakewalk.
No.
Speaking of cakewalk, the NFC South, Saints 18.
Yeah.
the AFC South is a train wreck. So it's your divisional football is going to be fun. It's going to be fun week in and week out.
Yeah. No, it will be fun. We got also fun. Lawrence Rivera coming in saying Cinco de Mayo, baby. Cinco de Mayo. God bless. Excuse me. I have food in my brain. And I also, you guys know from yesterday, I don't speak Spanish, which is a big regret in my life. But Cinco de Mayo, thank you so much. We also got Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Let's ride.
We need to move you to the South with your Spanish pronunciations, man. Then it makes sense. Hey, man, happy Cinco de Mayo. You fit right in down here, brother.
I do enjoy Mexican food a lot, and one of my best friends is Mexican, and you know what? I would tease him just pronouncing everything as wrong as I possibly could. So maybe I did myself in on that one because
you tell your Spanish teacher, hey, hakalugi, she's like, oh
God, yeah. Absolutely. But good to see you, Michael. Hope you're doing well down there in Tucson. And we got Glenda Lee coming in here saying the only way we'll be respected is to put up or shut up. Changes are coming. So tired of the irrelevant narrative. You with me, guys? I think the Broncos have been irrelevant. And I think it was prior to the draft last year where Kyle Brandt said, who gives a bleep about the Broncos? Because nobody cares since Peyton Manning's walked out. They're boring. They're bad. Yawn. And he's proven right. That was a year ago. I don't think he's not saying that now, so don't come for Kyle Brandt's life. He's there to make, content and be engaging, which that one got some eyeballs on him. But Broncos are not irrelevant anymore at 8 overall. That said, Glenda's 100% correct. This is a post-draft power ranking. Until we actually see them win football games against teams that are good, then it means very little other than keeping us, hot airbags going during the offseason. But I agree with you, Scott. I think if we were doing this power ranking, I would put the Green Bay Packers 4 as much, not because the Green Bay Packers are, that much more dominant than Kansas City or the Broncos or anything like that with their questions on coaching staff leaving and losing Devontae Adams. But the NFC North is freaking horrible. Like this is a safe bet to put the Packers up there because I don't know if there's a division that is actually worse. Like I think the Saints provide a much better punch as a chance against Tampa Bay than anybody in the NFC North. The Vikings look not great at all. The Lions are probably 2 years away. I love what they did in the draft, but they're probably still 2 years away. And the Bears are, God, who even knows? That team is doing everything they can to not empower Justin Fields and probably put themselves in the quarterback market next season. So Packers up there as well. But the Broncos at 8, you got to love it. That's a good spot for them.
Who had the 8th best record last year?
The 8th
and what
best
it was?
record. I'm going to go with they went 10-7.
11-6.
11-6.
11-6. It was Buffalo Bills were 11-6. So 9 was 10-7. So would you take 11-6 right now? Probably, yeah.
Yep.
You probably take that. So 8's about right. 8 feels about right for the Denver Broncos. They're getting the benefit of the doubt of they will be a lot better this year. So they're getting respect this year. They are.
Yeah, and Jason coming in saying Chiefs lost to Cincy twice in 4 weeks last year, and everyone still takes Kansas City over Cincinnati. LMAO. I mean, that's a good point. I will say that matchups make fights. Sometimes the styles of teams, it's like kind of like, and you see it in college basketball. How does this one team always beat the good team, but they lose to everyone else? It's stylistically, the Chiefs did not have the type of defense specifically to hang with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. They had very small cornerbacks that couldn't hang at the catch point, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins beat the hell out of them. So also, Kansas City, they're having a remake of their team, but their defense seems to be re-injuvenated with a lot of interesting talent. And Scott mentioned it earlier. It's not that we're selling on the Bengals, but what the Bengals did last year, going to the Super Bowl, was kind of
Improbable.
like improbable is good. It's kind of like the 2012 Ravens. They beat the number 1 seed Denver. They go to New England and they win, and then they beat the number 1 NFC seed in the 49ers. If you get hot and if you get in the playoffs and get hot, anything can happen. But if they played, let's say if they played the Bills, if for some reason the Bills got the overtime rules were different and the Bills won that game, who knows what happens with Cincinnati? So
yeah, and I'm going to tell you, this is again matchups.
Yep.
It's matchups on this. So yeah, especially on that day, the Cincinnati Bengals were better than the Chiefs without a doubt. So the matchup favored the Bengals. I just think over the course of a 17-game season, all else being equal, I think the Chiefs would probably have a better record at the end of the day. I could be talked out of that, though. I don't feel that strongly about it. I just think top to bottom, I think they're a better team. That doesn't mean they're going to beat them head to head. It's different matchups, different styles, different conditions, different circumstances. But I would have the Chiefs ahead of the Bengals right now. I would. Doesn't make me right, but that's what I'd do.
Yep. The real wild card here, and we haven't talked about them yet, is the Browns with Deshaun Watson. That roster on paper looks pretty darn good. They have somebody asked us, on Tuesday, if you guys could pick 3 players on defense, 3 players in the league, who would you pick right now? First player that comes to mind for me, that's not a quarterback, is Myles Garrett. They have one of the most valuable guys in football. And we had a super there. I don't know where that went. Want to say hello to Stuart Sanchez. Hey, guys, I listen to y'all all the time. And just wanted to say, hey, let's ride. Thank you so much, Stuart. That means a heck of a lot. Obviously, the coming in and supporting us like that is very helpful. But even if you can't, just the support, make sure you subscribe and like and share over on Facebook and YouTube. Mark Schrader, also big time supporter of the show. Good to see you, Mark, with the stars over on Facebook. We appreciate you.
Big stars, and he came in. Want to make sure we get this comment too. Says, I like the Saubert re-signing. Good special teams player. What are your thoughts? And do you think it possibly spells the end for Beck?
I think it definitely could spell the end for Beck. I think the end for Beck was possible with Eric Tomlinson and Greg Dolcich even before the signing. The one that does for me, and this might be a hot take, but I'm circling back to George Payton's comments after the press conference where they said, oh, we got another 2023 third. Right now we have 5 picks in 2023, but by the time the draft rolls around, we're going to have a lot more. That means that the Broncos are going to have to trade some players. And I don't think that means they're trading those 3rd round picks for 7th round picks. There's been more and more data coming out that the picks after the top 120 any given year are pretty much the same as undrafted free agents. So that's a reason that George Payton also said in the press conference, once you trade after the 4th round, nobody wants to give you future picks. It's because picks rounds 5 through 7, historically, very, very low odds to being guys, but you're getting potential starters there.
He didn't just say probably. He said, I guarantee we'll have more picks. Guarantee we'll have more than 5 picks.
Yep. So they're going to have to find to get some picks from somewhere. And what does that mean? Probably trading players. Based on what I'm gathering, getting out Dolcich out there, Tomlinson, everything. I'm curious if the Broncos would not be motivated sellers, but listening, not hanging up the phone. If teams are calling on Albert Okwuegbunam, he's put 2 years of control left here in Denver. Essentially a big slot receiver right now, given what they've said about his blocking ability. And I don't know, something just smells to me like, if somebody offered you a 4th round pick and you sent Albert Okwuegbunam and a 6 or something like that I don't know if they'd hang up. I really don't. So again, spelling the end of Beck, very possibly, but I think this signing along with Dolcich and Tomlinson makes it that maybe Albert Okwuegbunam is somebody that we should think about potentially being on the move. And as we've seen with George Payton's reign so far as the Broncos general manager, he has not been super loyal to the previous regime's draft selections, other than Cortland Sutton.
That'd be strange. I will be. I know he was on the block before, but so was Fant. I'd be surprised if both of those guys were gone. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but it would surprise me if you lose both Okwuegbunam and Fant in the same calendar year.
Yeah.
That would surprise me.
Yep. The way he's talked about it, moving some guys, it sounds like they're gonna have to shop somebody. Who is it? Who's that gonna be? Eric and I are gonna talk about that more on Friday night, and we can get into that here as well. But definitely something to consider. D Money coming in here. D Money coming in here. Chargers secondary versus Broncos secondary after the Callahan edition. Honestly, I think Denver has better depth. It's close. This is going to be a real sort of kind of milquetoast answer on this one, but I'm very much a believer that pass rush, in fact, impacts the secondary as much as anything. And I'll take Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack over what the Broncos have, so the Chargers secondary will look better. Also, for as much as I love, and I'm serious, love Justin Simmons as a player, Derwin James is a more dynamic player when he's out there on the field. It's no disrespect to Justin Simmons. He's more steady Eddie and very good at what he does. Derwin James is probably the single most impactful safety.
What about corners? Do they have two corners that can match up with Darby and Surtain?
They're not as good as Darby and Surtain, but they are pretty close. I will say they signed JC Jackson, big money deal. They have they paid somebody 2 years ago that was pretty good money too that the Broncos were interested in. They drafted Asante Samuel Jr., who was really good for them a couple of years last year as well as a rookie, kind of a slot player, but good player, no doubt about that. But what really stands out to me is I think the Broncos do have better depth as far as the cornerback room, but I would take the Chargers safeties all day, even with Justin Simmons. I mean, Kareem Jackson, don't let this get to him because he'll at me on Twitter and be angry about it. But, he's lost a step out there, it appears to me. Has not been as good. But the Chargers have, not only Derwin James, they also have Nasir Adderley, who is from Delaware, a really good pick for them in 2019. He's had some injury issues, but I think he's a really good player. And they also drafted JT Woods in the third, excuse me, your guy, Scott.
I like JT Woods a lot. And I like him going to a situation where he won't be needed right away too.
Yep.
You talk about traits, he's got them in spades. Just an amazing athlete, and go kill it on special teams for a year, learn the craft a little bit, let Derwin James take you under your wing, big brother him, shadow him for a year. And I really like that pick. And I don't know. Of course it's LA Chargers. They're still San Diego Chargers to me. I'm like, that's where, like when we were doing, where do you want to be in X amount of years? When I did that as a senior in high school, I was the general manager for the San Diego Chargers. I was like, I like the colors. And I like San Diego, and I want to fly airplanes. So it's just a good situation for JT Woods out there. Now it's LA. I'm not as excited about him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give a slight lead to the Broncos. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it more and more, just because I think the other day
talked yourself right out of that one, didn't you?
Well, I like the Chargers safeties better. But I really do think that Patrick Surtain is an emerging superstar. Not just, JC Jackson good, but like the level of play that you can't even think about life without him. I think he's going to be a top 3 cornerback in the NFL. I mean, he was really good last year at 21 years old. I mean, he's incredible. And I'm excited to see what he can be playing with a lead and better pass rushers in front of him. The fact that he looked that good last year with the Broncos suffer ball level of offense and the second worst pass rush in the NFL, according to analytics. And now you're going to have him out there with more depth in the secondary, better pass rush, Russell Wilson offensive ball. I think Patrick Surtain is a dynamic player, and I'm going to tip it to him. And Greg Smith, maybe Greg bullied me into this one, saying, come on, Nick, we're building the Broncos. Let's not tearing them down already. I'm going to call it as I see it. Some people are in the rah-rah, everything's great, awesome all the time. Some people are everything sucks. I just want to say, call it as I see it.
Well, and this one is, I kind of read this one back to the trade discussions as you're moving players away. If you're going to guarantee more draft picks next year, there's some players going to be on the move. So, and again, I'll be perfectly honest. When you talk about a 6th-round draft pick, a 7th-round draft pick who hasn't played a snap from the practice squad, and you trade him for a 6th, you can't predict that kind of stuff. I mean, that's not okay. Who can move? Any of those guys from roster spot 38 to 67 on the practice squad, any of those guys can move at any given time. Those are the ones that are impossible to predict. It's the ones that are in the starting 22 or their backups, so that those 35, 36 players and up that you're like, okay, who could be expendable of this bunch that becomes a little more debatable. a little more obvious of, okay, this guy's not good enough, or this guy's on the last year of his deal, those kind of things.
Yeah.
You know, you could end up with more draft picks by moving guys that don't have a shot of ever playing for the Denver Broncos that we don't ever talk about because they don't have a shot of ever playing.
Yeah. And I didn't say sucker ball, suffer ball is it. And unfortunately, watching the Iowa Hawkeyes on offense, I know about suffer ball all too well. Scott, at some point, I mean, I love my Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, I'm wearing them right now, but holy cow, their offense is just unbelievably painful to watch. You have to try to enjoy watching the center, Tyler Linderbaum, to get any real joy or butterflies watching that Iowa offense. Not the best in the world. Toyin coming in here, Quan Williams saying good morning and afternoon, everyone. Very excited to hear about the Broncos coming to London. We'll be getting a ticket, and I'm sure UK Broncos fans will represent. Absolutely. Really excited about that, going over to London, seeing the Broncos. Hopefully we have a better outcome than although I actually know it was a good outcome. The last time the Broncos were in London was the Spygate 2.0 incident with Josh McDaniels as the Broncos head coach, and Broncos filming the 49ers, I believe, in their walkthroughs and getting found out. And that led to disgraced Josh McDaniels getting fired, which in the end led to Von Miller and John Fox and Peyton Manning and that whole era. So, sometimes the wrong turn there gets you to the right destination. So you can't be too upset about that one.
Zach and I were talking about it last night. We want to go. So October 30th, there's a decent chance that Zach Kelberman and I are over in London for that game. I'm going to drag him around, go over there a couple days early, maybe stay a day late and drag him around and see some matches in London. Visit with our UK, our London faithful, anybody that comes in for that game. But there's a better than average chance. My wife said no. She knows better than that. You tell me no, it just makes me want to do it more. She figured me out a long time ago. What she says, what she did when I have a crazy idea is, well, think about that. Or why don't you try a rental first or do something like this? I'm like, all right, fine. Then I come to my senses. You don't tell me no. That just makes me want to do it more. So, all kidding aside, I want to be over there for that game. Zach wants to be over for that game. We can probably make it happen.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. Be a lot of fun.
Maybe Chelsea will be playing too around that time.
I looked at the that was the first thing I did. I went back and scrolled down and looked at the fixture list for last October 30th. And because there's international breaks where nobody's playing except the countries and there's nothing there. But that week there was Saturday, because they play on Sundays, obviously. Saturday matches, Sunday matches, Monday matches, Tuesday Champions League. So we could go over and get there Friday morning and come back, Wednesday morning and have Broncos fun and go see all kinds of European football. So have a good time.
I think the Broncos will be playing at Wembley as well. Not that
stadium. It is, and I've never been to Wembley. It's not. I've never been to Spurs Stadium either. But I'd have more fun at Wembley than Spurs.
Yeah,
go to Spurs.
Tottenham.
So, I'd have more fun, but Wembley would be fun. That's history. Wembley's, like going to Madison Square Garden or the Coliseum or something like that. So I'm excited about the Broncos coming over on October 30th. And there's a darn good chance I'm going to be over there too. It's a lot easier for guys like Zach and I to get over there than it is for guys like Nick. Nick can get to Japan faster than he can get to London.
Yeah, we need a Japan game. That'd be great. That's Broncos history, just kind of trip down memory lane here. Broncos played a preseason game in Japan back in, maybe it was 1996. And that was the famous Terrell Davis making the team. Terrell Davis was ready to quit, leave. He was not having a good time in Broncos training camp, preseason, and everything like that. And in that preseason game in Japan, he just scarfed down a hot dog beforehand. And then the special teams are like, okay, Davis, you're up. And he's like, oh man, I'm not feeling very good. I was ready to leave and quit. And he was going to fly out of there. He was looking for a plane ticket and they couldn't get it. So he went to the game anyway and ran down the field, made a massive special teams hit. And the coaches are like, who the hell was that? Davis? Okay, we're going to get him some reps. We want to see that at running back. And the rest is literally history. So kind of funny, what's that movie from the 80s? Sliding Doors, something? That's the Sliding Doors incident. And it's like the alternate realities where one thing, like Butterfly Effect.
Oh, the Butterfly Effect. I knew that one.
Yeah.
That was weird. I liked it. Weird. That was that was the Butterfly Effect. It wasn't a great movie, but it was a thing. It got you thinking. So
conceptually,
it was interesting.
Yeah. Cassie coming in here saying good morning all, long time no see. Yeah, Cassie, we haven't even been doing the shows since we haven't seen you. No, I'm just kidding. Good to see you, Cassie. Me talking about San Diego. Me too, Scott. I'll always look at the Chargers in San Diego. Also
I'll say the next part, and also the Redskins. Yeah,
you're gonna get
they
me red in the
were
face.
the Washington Redskins. They are
Yeah.
now the Washington Commanders. I'm okay with the Washington football team, though.
Yeah.
They'll always be the Redskins to me. It's part of our NFL history. You can't change history. Yeah, that's what they were.
Yep.
What's Cleveland? The Guardians. The Cleveland Guardians sounds a little odd, a little more odd to me. I felt like they could have done better than that one. But honestly, I'm okay with those changing, getting into the politics here. The Redskins seem to me like it probably needed a change, and the just being called the Cleveland Indians. When you think about what that actually is, it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's start a team, and we're the Atlanta Caucasians. That's or the Atlanta Americans, or it's just kind of odd. So like not the Braves or the Seminoles or something like that, which is a specific a warrior or something. Then it's just kind of weird. But could have done better than Guardians, couldn't you?
Yeah, I got no opinion on that one. I know that they use like some of the architecture in the city of Cleveland to like make the logo and stuff, so which I think is cool. Some of the famous buildings there in Cleveland. But EJ coming in too saying, Scott, my wife also told me no when I said I was going to go watch the Broncos in London, but I'm still going.
She knows better. We've been married, we've been together 25 years. She knows better than to tell me no. I was like, I think I want to get a dirt bike. She's like, well, why don't you rent one first? I'm like, damn it, she's on to me. Don't tell me no. I think the last time she told me no was when I told her I was going to get a motorcycle for my 30th birthday. And she said, we can't do that. I was pissed. Pissed. This is in my 20s. She came back later. I was like, well, I'm doing it. I didn't say anything. So I'm getting it anyway. She came back to me like a couple weeks later and says, go ahead and do it. I know you're going to anyway, and I don't want you being mad at me.
See, that's smart.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, but her instant reflex was no. I'm like, yeah, don't tell me no. I'll book it today.
Yeah. Kayleon Green saying, yo, good to see you, Kayleon. And this is also coming back to the Broncos secondary talk. Quan Williams. I keep forgetting about Quan Williams as part of the equation just because I haven't seen him out there and, the 1-year deal. But I'm really excited to see Quan Williams as well. And I think he is actually, because he's so physical at that slot spot, I think he actually might be a turning point for me. So I'm going to go with the Broncos on that one.
And look out, Kareem Jackson and Quan Williams coming together. Good Lord.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm also excited to see what Caden Concerns do out there. And Turner Yell. He's very physical as well. A little bit small considering how physical he is. Probably one of the reasons he missed so many games at Oklahoma. But will be interesting to see him out there as well. Look out, Jamar Johnson. You better bring some special teams reps this season. Otherwise, you're going to be not on the roster. Chris Hernandez coming in saying good morning. Good morning to you, Chris Hernandez. Thank you so much for the support. And also Jeremy saying,
Captain Obvious. So for my 30th birthday, I was, 35 at the time. You never know. This is 49. I might stay 49 for a while. So
absolutely. Also got Paul coming in saying hello, Nick and Scott. Good to see you, Paul. So back to the Broncos rankings here in the power rankings. I haven't pulled that one up yet, so I'm going to pull up what they had to say about the Broncos finishing there at number 8 overall. Here we are. I'm up at the Bengals here. La-di-da. There we go. Awesome. Can you guys see that? Is that good? Boom. 8 overall.
Give it one more zoom.
I think if I zoom in anymore, it's going to make it so you can't see it anymore. We'll do it anyway. Boop. Well, we can read the words.
Yeah, well, the text is all that matters for us.
You don't want the logo, the fancy picture, the robot horse. Okay, so the Broncos from Dan Hanzus finishing number 8 in the previous rank. They stay at number 8. And he says the blockbuster trade for Russell Wilson was a massive lift for the franchise, and it's hard to quibble with any transaction that ends with the arrival of a potential Hall of Famer in his prime. One minor drawback of the deal was the departure of tight end Noah Fant, who was sent to the Seattle. Denver addressed this hole in its attack through the draft, selecting UCLA's Greg Dolcich in the 3rd round. Dolcich was a downfield playmaker in college, and he should have a clear path to an immediate role in Nathaniel Hackett's offense. So they're the Broncos at number 8 overall. What do you think? I keep seeing people talk about Dolcich in a Noah Fant-esque role. How do you feel about that for the Broncos? Because Noah Fant, I know that we are, given the Broncos' anemic offensive output, fans were not always enthralled with Noah Fant, but when you put him against other tight ends in the league, he was up there top 5, top 8 in statistical output for an offense that didn't throw the ball at a high volume. So,
he had career highs in catches and yards last year. But Albert Okwuegbunam, I don't understand. Is it a lazy take, or do they know something that we don't? Because Albert Okwuegbunam fills the hole left by Noah Fant.
Albert Okwuegbunam still has the two big issues that he had coming out of college. Not a very good blocker at the point
Neither
of
was
attack.
Noah Fant.
Noah Fant is a significantly better blocker.
But he wasn't very good. He didn't do very well blocking last year. I didn't think of him and say, oh yeah, we got to have that guy blocking. It's a running play. He wasn't very good at it.
Yeah.
And he caught a lot of passes, but didn't make a ton of plays. So if you look back at last year, and that's not what you're wanting. You're wanting more than that. But Albert Okwuegbunam is more than a justifiable replacement for, more so than Greg Dulcich, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
When we're talking about who replaces Noah Fant, I would have Okwuegbunam ahead of him. When I look at Dolcich, I start thinking, hey, is this team going to play with a fullback? Sometimes, who's that fullback going to be? You can drop him. You can drop in Dolcich as an H-back, as a pass catching tight end for sure. So he's got versatility, but I just think it's kind of a lazy take to say, oh, they lost Fant. They drafted a tight end. Obviously, here's the replacement for Fant. No, I don't buy that.
Yeah. I guess we'll see how it plays out. It really doesn't seem like internally they're super high on Albert Okwuegbunam, and I don't know if Wilson is either. So I don't know if there's something there behind the scenes. I guess he could prove me wrong, but given how I perceived the position to then go out there and 80th overall on Dolcich, okay, I get it. And then Eric Saubert, I don't know what's going on there. And Noah Fant, not the best inline blocker. I actually thought more or less he was pretty good at targeting second level guys on the move. Go ahead.
And I think Dolcich is okay at that too.
Yes.
He's a little undersized. He's 243 pounds, 245 pounds. And I think he's just fine with using his lateral movement and his agility to get out there and get to the second level. Now, I don't want him lining up against 3-4 defensive ends, but he can get in the way of a 245-pound edge rusher, right, Nick Benito? He can do that job, and I think he's really good at getting out to the second level.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Absolutely. And Dolcich, I think, can get there. It's probably going to take a year to add more mass, especially to his base, to get there, but something to think about. And the other thing with Dolcich compared to Albert Okwuegbunam is, and this might not even be fully Okwuegbunam's fault, per se, but this is a scouting cliche, and it kind of sticks out to me. But Albert Okwuegbunam in his routes kind of turns like a battleship. So it's the really slow, rounded out turns. And part of it is he's running a 4.5 at 260 pounds. Momentum equals mass times velocity, right, folks? So Albert Okwuegbunam being that big and fast, moving around, plays pretty tall and doesn't really sink his hips in and out of his routes. Therefore, doesn't really have crisp breaks in his routes. Dolcich, smooth operator in space, totally different in that regard. Noah Fant was also much more smooth in that regard than Albert Okwuegbunam. So actually, I think what Okwuegbunam's role is going to be in this offense is he's going to essentially become the Alan Lazard of this team, where he is that big slot option, and he's going to do a lot of digging out, which, okay, Albert Okwuegbunam in line, not very good blocker. As a slot, compared to, KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy, big time improvement, and he can run up the seam all day, seam or kind of a curl route from that slot or, crosser, et cetera, et cetera. He can do that just fine. So that's what I actually perceive Okwuegbunam's role to be this season.
And there might be a reason why he didn't do anything but the 40. I just looked at different things. I'm like, all right, well, what is it? You start talking about turning. I'm like, all right, what was his L cone? What was his shuttle? And he didn't run any of those at the combine. And I haven't looked into pro days yet to see what they were, but probably 4.5s or higher, probably 7.6 or higher, if would make sense based on how you're describing it. But again, Noah Fant, his strength was going forward. Why he didn't have more explosive plays or, bigger plays is because he was being used in a stop and go type of role. He wasn't getting hit on the quick slant or down the seam. He was making curl routes and stop routes and bubble screens where he's asked to catch and run instead of run and catch. So it's very, to me, that the criticisms that you have of what we've had so far of Okwuegbunam apply to Fant. I think that's probably why the Broncos were saying, okay, in this trade offer, we want to send you Okwuegbunam. They're like, no, we want Fant instead. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I don't know how big a fight there was for that.
Yeah, my biggest complaint with Fant and Dolcich is not the athlete, the production, the specimen that Noah Fant was coming out of Iowa. I mean, Noah Fant's testing was phenomenal. He was like 95th percentile in his jumps and his runs and his 3-cone, et cetera, 90th, 95th percentile, and was bigger than Dolcich as well. So but that said, there's a reason that Dolcich went 80 and Noah Fant went 20. It's not the same kind of guy. What I will say watching Dulcich's tape, and this is something that in theory Fant should have been better with, and Dulcich should not be as good given the athleticism and the body type, but God, nothing was making me gray my hair last year. I guess I can't say nothing because the quarterback playing Denver. But what gave me a few grays last year was Noah Fant getting the ball in space and only having it perfectly schemed up. Honest to God, this is what you want. One guy to beat. If you make this one man beat, who is a defensive back at that, who you have 50 pounds on, make this one guy beat, and it's off to the races. I seriously cannot remember one time when that happened. And there was probably at least a dozen times where they got it schemed up perfectly where, okay, one safety. If you can make this guy miss, run through him or anything, you have 20 yards or who knows, because he's fast in the open field. And he would not break the tackle. Dulcich, not as big, not as fast, not as dynamic of a tester, looked like a better athlete in space. Caveat here is that Pac-12 football. Yikes. Sorry, guys. The defensive football in the Pac-12 is, honest to God, the Pac-12 might be worse than the American Conference out there with like Cincinnati and Houston and whatnot.
It's a pretty tight race between that and the Big 12 and their basketball scores. 65 to 58. It's again. But if you look at Texas, the Texas high school 7-on-7 is a big event. Those guys are playing passing leagues constantly, and then that's what they do. Then the rules have all changed to aid the passing game. It's got to be a correction in there somewhere, though. D Porter coming yellow. Just stopping by to say, hi, you guys are awesome. D Porter, you're awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for the support, sir. We appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, Noah Fant has been dealing with an ankle injury last year. Dealt with the sudden passing of his mother. Dealt with bad quarterback play. And the Broncos used him a lot. I know a lot of people were kind of getting upset. Shermer doesn't use the tight end. Fant was seeing a lot of targets for an offense proportionally. That wasn't very high volume. But the biggest thing for me that just drove me nuts is that, people are like, oh, why is Fant getting tackled here? Blah, blah, blah. It was schemed up exactly as you want. If you have a tight end in the flat that has one safety coming downhill to beat, that is a win schematically. That's putting the ball in your playmaker's hands to do something. And just never did. So hopefully Dulcich can translate that a little bit more. But while we're on Dulcich, what do you see his role being year one? Do you think there's a chance that Dulcich could end up being the starting tight end for this team? Or what do you think the rotation will be?
There's a chance for sure. But I see him as a big H-back pass catching option that will see time. Now, is he starting every time? Probably not. I don't know that he's a good enough blocker right now to be a starting tight end, depending on in a base set. But I think we'll see a lot of him. I think he's a really good receiver, a former wide receiver. He knows how to use his body, knows how to get open, good after the catch. He's got some big plays in him. And if you get him 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage and give him the ball, all of a sudden 245 is big, real big. So I like him. I like the pick. I like his attitude. And I think he will have a role this year for sure. Even again, put him as an H-back and drop him in the offensive backfield and scheme some things for him out of there too. A little angle route, get him the ball in motion, and again, move him, get him the ball in the second level, and all of a sudden his size isn't an issue anymore. It's actually a plus.
Yeah,
you just don't want him lining him up you don't want him in 3rd and 1. Where unless it's an H-back, unless it's in the backfield, you don't want him on the line of scrimmage going against somebody that has him by 50 pounds.
Yeah. No, totally. It'll be interesting to see. I do think that it's kind of funny that Dulcich is, and granted to Hanzus here, well, how much are you going to write about in one blurb about 32 teams here in a power ranking? But Dulcich being the standout here. If you were writing this article here, Broncos at 8 overall, what would you write, standout-wise is like the reason to justify the Broncos at 8? Let's say outside of bringing in Russell Wilson, which he did
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I would talk about the depth of the wide receiver core and the offensive weapons. And I wouldn't say, and Noah Fant was replaced by Greg Dulcich. I'd say Albert Okwuegbunam is a capable replacement. And I would mention his measurables, 6'5", coming in like a high 4.4s, I think. or at worst low 4.5s. I would talk about Okuebanam. But I would say one of the reasons why Noah Fant was expendable is because they had a capable deputy in Albert Okuebanam, and they have a dearth of offensive skill positions that Russell Wilson can throw to, including Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Javonte Williams. And Melvin Gordon is coming back too. They upgraded the defensive line and got better at edge with their first pick in the second round, Nick Bonito, while bringing in Randy Gregory at edge and hopefully a full season from Bradley Chubb to go along with budding stars in the secondary like Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain.
Yep.
That's what I would have said.
Yep, you hit the whole team. I think the big thing I would have leaned on there was the how bad the Broncos pass rush was last year, and obviously they traded Von Miller hurt that, but Bradley Chubb healthy offseason for the first time in 2 years, bringing in Randy Gregory, Nick Bonito as well. What we saw from Jonathan Cooper last year, hopefully he'll be just as good, if not slightly better. DJ Jones and the intriguing upside of Baron Browning as a pass rusher as well. Big question is dearth means lack.
My opposite days off on this. Sorry, Jason. Dearth seems like a lot. Dearth. Okay.
It's an emptiness. It's a lack of, like, a dearth of talent. Like, we could say that who's a terrible before the Falcons drafted Drake London. God, I'm going to keep doing that forever. Before they drafted Drake London, they had a dearth of talent at wide receiver. Now they have somebody, maybe. So
I'm just going to have to scratch that from my vocabulary because it's in my head as a lot.
Absolutely. But I think that's the big thing for me. The big thing I would hammer home is obviously you have Russell Wilson, but this year the Broncos pass rush should be much more dynamic, and that should help everything look a lot better. So excited about that. Again, we talked about it though. It's a very volatile position as far as the ceiling versus the floor. But we'll see how it plays out. Some other ones here that stuck out for the Broncos. So we had the Chargers at 9 and the Raiders at 10 with the Chiefs at 7. Goodness, any thoughts on how tightly packed the AFC West was in this perception?
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat because I'm embarrassed about the dearth thing. So you'll have to repeat the question because now I'm turning. We used to tell the kids in baseball, if you bobble it, don't throw it away. Don't turn one mistake into two, and now I am. So could you repeat the question?
For sure. No, absolutely. So you have not only the Broncos at 8, as you mentioned, but then Chiefs at 7, Chargers at 9, Raiders at 10. Just how the AFC West shakes out. Any thoughts on how they have those guys ranked? I'm actually pretty surprised to see the Chargers or the Raiders that high.
So am I a little bit. Yeah. I still think there's some probably enamorism. I know that ain't a word. Yeah. Of with Josh McDaniels. He's going to get a second chance to prove that the stuff that his success in New England can translate. But I am a little surprised there. How much better did they get? Did Devontae Adams make as big a difference as Russell Wilson? No.
Yeah.
But they're a solid team. I just think they're 9-8 type, not 11-6 type. So we will see. And I came up with an analogy. Y'all never seem to believe in the Chargers, and you've been watching them a long time. And as I was watching the baseball last night, the New York Mets getting off to a hot start, it kind of hit me because I said to myself, I'm like, yeah, but it's the Mets. They'll screw it up. I'm like, the Mets are your Chargers. You have no faith or belief that the Chargers are going to be there at the end of the day because they're just going to screw it up. So we will see. But again, are the Denver Broncos getting enough respect? Yeah, they are. They're moving up into the top 10 from a bottom third team last year. New coach, new quarterback, all of those things are usually question marks, but in this team, it's universally seen as a positive. Yeah. So moving them up to 8, I think they are getting plenty of respect. But again, I agree with the idea that I wouldn't move them ahead of the Chiefs yet. The Chiefs have your number.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we have Hallstar coming in here saying Raiders made the playoffs last year and added Adams and Jones. They will be good. Mm-hmm. We know the Raiders made the playoffs last year, but we also know that the Raiders were the only team to make the playoffs with a negative point differential. And boy, howdy, did they have a massive negative point differential. Not only were the only team to make it with a negative point differential, I think they were like negative 76 points on that differential. And their Pythagorean wins, which is actually more predictive year to year than the actual win-loss, because in the game, things are volatile, but the Pythagorean wins takes like the point differential and other circumstances to predict what your wins will be. And I think the Raiders actually were predicted to finish 6-11 last year, and they ended up winning, making the playoffs. So even though they added Adams, they're going to be fighting against the overall data and output from last year that is more predictive than actually where they winded up.
So going, we talk a lot of Falcons on Wednesdays. I had a comment that's in a similar vein yesterday in kind of discussing players, and the guy says, well, Falcons won 7 last year. I expect them to win 10 this year because they're improving. Like, pump the brakes on that, kid. I'm expecting 3. They were lucky to win 7. Good coaching, good quarterbacking, good kicker. But they weren't a 7-win team last year. They weren't that good. And that's kind of a little bit how I feel about, they made the playoffs. Well, again, eked into the playoffs with a 10-7. I think they're a 500 team. Did they get better? Yes. Is 10 a little high? It might be, but there's so many bad teams, Nick. There's so much bad football being played right now that they could go anywhere from 8 to 16, and it wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah. So looking it up right now for the Raiders last year, they finished 23rd in Pythagorean wins with 6.8, and that's not very good. And Pythagorean wins is a projection of the team's wins based on point differential and points allowed, and is actually historically extremely predictive for what the team's actually output is. And you can actually, rather than look at what the wins lost were last year, Pythagorean wins is what Vegas uses to help kind of predict what the team is going to be next year. And because football is such a small sample size sport, over 17 games, a lot of things can happen. If this was 162 games, this would tend to be more in line with it over time. So even though the Raiders made the playoffs last year, I would say that they're going to have to battle to get back to where they were, because they had a lot of luck in the wins and losses. And, credit to them. Sometimes it's good to be like that, but it is not something to predict on year to year. They should see some regression to the norm there. And keep going here. So I want to talk a little bit more here. So the Raiders at 10, I'm going to list the next few teams here, and you stop me when eventually you're like, okay, this is where the Raiders make sense, because there's a few teams here that I'm like, yeah, I would take them over the Raiders. I would take them over the Raiders. I'd take them over the Raiders. So number 11, the Baltimore Ravens. Team had more bad injury luck last year than any team, I think, in the last 10 seasons or something like that. They should be better. I know they lost Hollywood Brown, but I expect the Ravens to be better this season than the Raiders. Do you agree?
Yeah, I like the Raiders a lot. I like the Ravens a lot. And going down, I like the Colts too.
Colts, yep.
The Colts at 12 with Matt Ryan. They're a very similar team to where the Broncos are. And they brought in a pretty good quarterback too in Matt Ryan.
Yeah, and how many Avogadro wins do they predict? See, we're talking about our old math heads here. Gosh, you're really being a nerd there, Clee. I appreciate it. So the Colts, I'd take the Colts over the Raiders. Cowboys, I would take the Cowboys over the Raiders. That's partially because the NFC least is not very good compared to the AFC West. I know you're kind of ranked them up there.
These are power rankings, yeah. Which is the better team? Switch their places.
Yeah.
Put the Raiders, switch places with the Raiders and Cowboys, and who has the better record?
I probably still take the Cowboys, but it's because I'm a big Dak Prescott guy. I think he's a very underrated quarterback. I do not like Mike McCarthy though. So yeah,
they're volatile. The Cowboys are. You just never know what you're going to get out of them.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Mike McCarthy. Maybe that's Dak Prescott. Maybe it's Jerry Jones. There's the constant there, right?
Jerry World, baby, showing everybody his big board after day 1 of the draft. You got to love it. Cleveland Browns 14, Eagles 15, Titans 16, Patriots 17, Saints 18, Dolphins 19, and Cardinals 20. So there's some teams there that I'd probably put the Raiders above them. But I think Raiders, instead of being 10, I'd put them probably closer to 16, 17 in this ranking, right in the middle of the pack. And it's because the Raiders, on paper, I think their back seven is absolutely horrible. I have no respect for their back seven of their defense. Their secondary, they brought in Rocky Sin, who is a fine number 2 corner, but outside of that, it is ugly there in Las Vegas. And you got to have some depth in secondary players in this division.
How do the Tennessee Titans fall from 12-5 to a 500 team in one season?
That's the number 1 seed in the AFC as well. So they buy the that's another team that you should expect to see some regression this season overall, but to fall that far is pretty shocking to see.
Yeah, they had the 4th best record, tied in that neighborhood. So that seems low-ish to me. I know they don't have AJ Brown, but they still have the running game. Derrick Henry stays healthy. they shouldn't be 8-9. That'd be a pretty big drop off for them to drop into that neighborhood, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and also they have the benefit of playing in the AFC South, which obviously the Texans will be slightly improved, the Jags will be slightly improved, but that should be 3.5 wins right there.
Mm-hmm.
Colts, I think, are obviously, I would say, the best team in that division right now. I'm a huge Frank Reich fan. Man, I was
Maybe part of
pounding
it
the table with him.
scheduling, Nick. They get a number one, but they had a number one schedule last year.
Yep.
Again, I don't see them falling all the way to six to have that big of a drop off.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how it plays out. But the Broncos finishing there at 8. So we're very much about having the overall nuance of the discussion here, Scott. And last thing I want to get to you here before we get on out, let's put a ceiling and a floor as far as this ranking, because 8 feels about right, considering the teams we read there.
Mhm.
But I think that given where the Broncos fall, they do have a somewhat of a range. So put them in a tier here. How high would you have the Broncos in this ranking as the ceiling outcome and more likely for the value as you perceive them right now versus Broncos are at 8 overall. They could win a Super Bowl and be number 1. Okay.
You get a
Yes.
little bit of tunnel vision. And
Yeah.
Nick, you froze up just a little bit, so
Uh-oh.
hopefully you can still hear me. There, you're back.
I can.
You get a little bit of tunnel vision because you're like, oh yeah, but the right tackle isn't great. Oh, what are we going to do at center? Well, everybody's got holes. We just don't know them in and out like we do other teams. So I like Buffalo on the whole. I think they're a pretty complete team. So them at number 1 makes sense to me. And then looking at the AFC, is the ceiling number 2? Well, I mean, the ceiling obviously is number 1. Josh Allen gets hurt, Buffalo falls off. But let's say, without any kind of wild cards like that, I think Buffalo is clearly better than Denver right now.
Mm-hmm.
That could change by the end of season. So for me in the AFC, the ceiling would be 2. If everything comes together, if Russell Wilson comes in and plays at a Pro Bowl level, it's number 2 for me because the team that's ahead of them is the Chiefs. And can this team be better than the Chiefs? Yes, it can. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it can. But you look over on the other side of things, Rams, yeah, they're not invulnerable. Packers, come on. Bucks, yeah, they're, I mean, so at some point, they got beat fairly early last year. But it was by the Super Bowl champion, but you know where I'm going with this. So right now the ceiling could be 2. The floor, put them down there with the Tennessee Titans around 16, where they are based on Russell Wilson. Takes a year for him to figure out everything what's going on. He has regressed some. I don't think so. The right tackle position and center position don't get answered. Your edge goes worst case instead of best case. You have a big hole at safety because you didn't upgrade the other safety position opposite Justin Simmons. Those are the questions. The floor for this team should be 500.
Yeah.
The ceiling for this team should be 14-3.
Yeah. I'm going to go a little bit tighter in my parameters than you there. So I'll put the Broncos well behind, not well behind, but just tier discussion wise, until they show it on the field, I'm not going to rank them above any of the following teams: the Bills, the Rams, the Bucks, the Packers, and the Chiefs. So that puts the Broncos at Bills, Bucks, Packers, Chiefs. 6 overall as their ceiling right now. If somebody put them at 6, I'd have no argument with that. I think you could put them with the Bengals. I think you could put them with the 49ers. Below that, I think the Broncos, they're better than the Raiders, but if you wanted to say the Chargers were better, I wouldn't fight you too hard. If you wanted to say the Ravens, if you wanted to say the Colts, if you wanted to say the Cowboys, you wanted to say the Browns, I wouldn't fight you on any of those teams too hard. Maybe even the Titans and the Eagles, but those two, I would put Broncos above them. So that puts the Broncos anywhere from like 5 to 16, which 16 is 500, middle of the pack. So that's what it makes sense to me. Obviously, Broncos get hot, get in the Super Bowl. The coaching staff hits the ground running with Russell Wilson. Could be number 1 overall this year. This is a team that is literally in a Super Bowl window right now. The draft kind of reflects that. We're going for it right now. But that's kind of the more compressed range that I perceive the Broncos right now. So, I mean, heck, what's the floor? If Russell Wilson gets, I won't even say it, but let's say, Josh Johnson's played some snaps this year, your floor is very low in that case. So,
yeah, but I mean, that goes for, if Josh Allen goes out, we're not talking about Buffalo Bills anymore.
Nope.
I mean, that goes for everybody. So again, we're not going to try and throw the wild cards out the window, like that, because that throw all bets are off with a key injury for any of these teams. They're just not enough good quarterbacks for a team to lose their number 1 and be a competitive team, a Super Bowl contender. For me, 6 to 12 sounds about right, but you said floor and ceiling. So, I mean, what's the ceiling is best case, right?
Yep.
Best case for me, I think this team is just a little bit below the Buffalo Bills. Worst case, middle of the pack, 8-9, 16.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, guys, we're going to get on out of here. A lot of tight end talk. Maybe we're going to break down the positions more when the offseason gets here, when we are, I wouldn't say scraping the bottom of the barrel for content, but really having a chance to get super deep into minutia and specifics of the roster and the team itself. So, Scott, any thoughts before I get the read on out of here and get us on home?
I don't think so. Just enjoyed, don't want to talk too much soccer, but the Champions League game yesterday between Manchester City and Real Madrid was unfreaking believable. Spend your afternoon watching a Champions League match. It's fun. Yeah. You're not watching anything else, unless you're a day baseball person, then okay. Okay.
No, Scott, everybody's don't listen to Scott. 2023 draft picks. That's what we need to start doing. We need to get the grinding starting right now. Cornerbacks, wide receivers, offensive tackles, edge rushers. We're going to have some. No, I'm just kidding. I'm starting to daydream about summer and all the hikes and backpacking trips to come. So that's what's ahead of me. DWI guys coming in saying from balls to dearth. This show has it all. Not a dearth of balls, though. We'll say that. Have a great weekend, everyone. Great show, gents. Broncos for breakfast. # the closer.
One more thing, because I felt like you were reading his and not quite into your sign off. Tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, so in the same time frame, Thomas Hall will be doing a Legends of Broncos. I'm not sure exactly the name of the show, but be here tomorrow. Come check it out on this channel. It's a new show launching in May, talking about history, going down the road, all those type of things. I'll be in the background on that one. I'll help produce and be part of the conversation for a little while. But check it out. New show tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, guys, we appreciate you. We're going to get on out of here. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you are a part of our Facebook communities at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, as well as facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And please like, subscribe, and share over on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you're joining in tomorrow. And everyone have a great Thursday. I'm going to go see Doctor Strange with Natalie tonight, so that we're going to be nerding it up. So everyone have a good one. We appreciate you. Until next time, choose kindness, choose compassion. Go Broncos.